Today we're going to be talking about the leadership aspect. I'm going to go through card combos and some of my favorite picks for this wonderful and amazing aspect in the Marvel Champions living card game. First, you're going to throw the Captain America core set in with all of the hero cards, 2 copies of the Power of Leadership. Make the call. You want 3 copies of that. You really want to be recycling your heroes often. A lot of those triggered events on Squirrel Girl, Maria Hill, things of that nature, Nick Fury and Mockingbird, you're going to get a lot of replayability out of those allies by constantly bringing them back. Next, you're going to put 2 copies of Inspired in to sort of buff your allies. You're going to upgrade them and use those on people like Wonder Man, people like Vision. Those work really well. Next, you're going to have 2 copies of Lead from the front. You're going to use this event at the beginning of your turn to really increase either the thwarting potential or the damage output of all your heroes and your allies during the course of that turn. You're next going to have just your basic resources, your basic 3 resources, Strength, Energy, Genius. 1 copy of Nick Fury, Mockingbird. The Avengers Tower will allow you to bring out your Avengers cheaply. The Avengers Mansion, I highly recommend in any deck. Helicarrier, you're going to add 1 copy of Endurance to get that 3 hit point boost to make it easier for Captain America to survive. 1 copy of the Quinn Jet is enough. You can constantly be building up counters and, intermittently putting a hero into play. Squirrel Girl is fantastic. Maria Hill is fantastic. Wonder Man's pretty decent. You will have to discard a card when you're using him. Hawkeye is fantastic as well to whittle down minions when they're coming into play. Falcon's okay. He hits pretty hard, has a good thwart, and Vision is a great option as well. By using this set of cards, you get a lot of synergies. One of the things I'll talk about real quick is Captain America. He has a lot of stuff going on in this deck that can actually really enhance the leadership quality. So to help this theme of the Captain America leadership deck, we're first going to look at Steve Rogers. His Living Legend ability, it says reduce the cost of the first ally played each round by 1. This is fantastic since you have an ally-centric deck. While he's in his alter ego form, you can reduce the cost of the first ally by 1. In conjunction with that, we have Steve's Apartment. You can exhaust the apartment to heal a damage from Steve Rogers and draw a card. You can use that card as an actual resource itself. So once you draw that card, you can use that to help you play down additional allies. Resource generation for the Captain America leadership deck that I just showed you is very, very overpowered, and I'm going to walk you through why. Once we have the Steve Rogers Living Legend ability, remember that that's going to decrease the first ally played each round by 1 while you're in alter ego form, and that's fantastic. So think of that almost as 1 resource. Then you also have 2 copies of Super Soldier Serum that are present in the Captain America deck. Each one of these can be used to generate a physical resource. Next, you have the Avengers Tower, which you can actually reduce the next Avenger played this phase by 1, and then throw in Helicarrier, which you can reduce the cost of anything by 1. Once you get all of this stuff out, and even way before you get all of these cards out, this deck is going to be generating a massive amount of resources that you can use to play out allies. Although a lot of the allies are, 2, 3, or 4 resource cost, it's not an issue with this deck. You can be consistently bringing out large numbers of allies, and feel free to use them frequently. You don't have to hold back with this deck because you have so many allies. You also have Make the Call, which allows you to recycle those allies over and over again. So think of it this way. The Captain America leadership deck generates a ton of resources and a ton of allies. So you can throw those allies at your opponents with abandon, literally. You can also use those allies to block the villain over and over again. So once some of your allies start getting weak, throw them out there to block so you can take the hit. Your hero really doesn't have to block the villain very often with this version of the deck. This deck is very effective at mitigating decks like Ultron. You have so many allies, you can burn through those drone counters very quickly. The Green Goblin second version, where he's taking over the city with the mutagenic gas, and there's goblins all over the table, you can use your allies to whittle that down as well. So this is a fantastic way to do a lot of damage, do a lot of thwarting, and generate a ton of resources, and it's super fun to play. So I highly recommend playing the Captain America leadership deck and maybe make a few modifications to the original deck that you purchase and check it out. The next two cards I'm going to talk about together because I think it's pertinent. It's Get Ready and Make the Call. For Get Ready, it's a zero-cost event in which you can ready an ally. I think that's an okay card. I think the big issue when you're using allies is that anytime you activate an ally, or at least the vast majority of them, they're going to sustain a wound or an injury because of that. So simply being able to ready an ally and then using them again, it's an okay ability, but it's not the best. In contrast, for the same amount, a zero casting cost event, you can actually recycle an ally from your discard pile back into play. I think this is much more effective. So if one of your allies eats through their hit points, they're used up, you can use Make the Call instead of Get Ready. You can bring them back into play. Of course, you have to pay for the resources, but you can then use that ally over and over again. So I think when it comes down to card economy, Make the Call is a lot better. I'm a really strong advocate of Make the Call. There are a lot of card combinations that you can use with it, and I'll show you a couple of those. Make the Call is a great card if you want to recycle play effects from allies that trigger when they enter play. As an example, Mockingbird. When Mockingbird comes into play, you can stun an enemy. And then Nick Fury has a host of triggered effects that you can pick from when Nick Fury enters play. So by using the card Make the Call, you can continually recycle a lot of these effects. Probably my favorite effect is something that I'll show you in just a second. For triggered effects, I'm going to talk about now Squirrel Girl and Maria Hill. Probably Squirrel Girl is one of my favorite triggered effects when she enters play. Every single enemy suffers 1 damage when Squirrel Girl enters play. What's great about Make the Call, you can play Squirrel Girl and inflict 1 point of damage on each enemy in play. Then you can go ahead and exhaust Squirrel Girl, use her to thwart or attack in the same round. That will drop her hit points down to 1. Then the next turn, you're going to go ahead and do that again, in which removes her from play, and you put her into the discard pile. Then you play Make the Call to bring her back, and you can keep this cycle and this process going over and over again. Another character that you can do this with is Maria Hill. And what's great about Maria Hill is that each player actually gets to draw a card. So if you're playing a 2, 3, or 4 player game, this is a great card to buff and bolster everybody that's actually playing with you, and you use it in conjunction with Make the Call. So to kind of sum it up, Make the Call is a fantastic leadership card. I highly recommend playing 3 copies in your deck if you're somebody that likes playing allies out. And if you're playing the leadership aspect, there are a ton of great allies that you can play and you can recycle using this trick. So I highly recommend putting Make the Call in your deck if you like swarming your enemies and your opponents with a lot of allies. I'm going to be talking about the next set of cards together because I think they're all fairly similar in theme and nature, in which it's boosting and buffing either allies or the hero or all of them at the same time. So the first one we're going to talk about is Morale Boost. This is a 1 resource event. And what this does is it targets a hero. And until the end of the round, that hero gets a +1 to all of their basic stats, so that's thwart, attack, and defense. When you're playing this card, you can get the most out of it if you're using a hero that can exhaust multiple times in 1 turn. As an example, Captain America with the I Can Do This All Day ability. When you discard a card, you can then untap Captain America and then exhaust him again to use this ability over and over again. Another character that you can do this with is Iron Man and the Arc Reactor. So these are really good combos. If you have if you have a hero that you can exhaust multiple times and ready multiple times in 1 turn, you get the most actually out of this card. Next, we have the card upgrade for 1 resource called Inspired, and you can attach this to an ally. And you can only have 1 on an ally, but it adds +1 attack and +1 thwart to that ally. I really like this card. It's cheap, it's easy to play. I recommend using this though on allies with about 3 or more hit points. You really get the most out of it if you play down 1 upgrade, and you're basically going to get +1 thwart or attack per hit point that ally actually has. So if you think of it that way, that's kind of the economy. So the more hit points an ally has, the better this card is, because you can attack with them or thwart with them over and over again and get that bonus. Now, most of your allies are going to get injured over time as they use their abilities. So really focus on characters with 3 or more hit points when you're using the expired card. One of my favorite cards is the Lead from the Front card. I highly recommend playing this card, especially if you're playing a leadership deck, which is heavy in allies, which most of them will be. For only 2 resources, this event adds +1 thwart and attack to a target player, okay? And that's all of the characters that player has out. So that's the hero plus any allies in play. Now remember that you can typically have a maximum of 3 allies in play, but with the hero, this card can potentially target 4 different characters all at once, and each one of them is going to get a +1 thwart and attack to really increase the effectiveness of your turn. So if you play this card down, do it at the beginning of the turn, and your characters will be significantly improved for that turn. So think of it this way: if you've got 4 allies out and they all attack on that turn, that's going to be a +4 attack. What if you're going to be thwarting that turn? What if you want to get rid of a bunch of threat tokens? Well, let's say you have 4 characters in play. You play this card. You're basically going to be able to thwart for +4, and that's absolutely huge. So I highly recommend Lead from the Front. 1 or 2 copies in your deck. 3 might be stretching it a bit, but if you really like this, then I also recommend doing 3 as well. And the final card in this series is a hefty 4-cost event called Avengers Assemble. This card can be used and is fairly effective. I think I like Lead from the Front much better because there's not as many restrictions on it. What is great about Avengers Assemble is that you can ready each Avenger character that you control. So let's say you've already exhausted several of your Avengers for the turn and you want to use them again. And these are your allies. This could be your hero as well. You can use this card and ready all of them. Now, the thing that's a little bit of a disconnect is that currently in the game, there's a lot of Avenger allies, and then there's a lot of shield type characters as well. So just understand that if you're going to be playing this card, it might not target all of your allies. Some of them are actually shield agents or shield spies, so you won't actually be able to ready them as well. Now, kind of similar to Lead from the Front, each Avenger character is going to get +1 thwart and attack. So if you can just think about this, if you have a lot of resources, let's say you have 6 resources and you really want to have a crazy turn, you could always combo Lead from the Front and then finish the end of your turn with Avengers Assemble. You could then ready a lot of those characters and then hit the enemy again. So for 6 resources, which is really pricey, you could have a really massive turn and you could do really well. Now, the only problem with this is that it's going to be rare that you're going to set up a combo like this. And then also understand too that it's not going to really ready all of your characters, only the Avenger characters are going to be impacted. Where I like Lead from the Front, it's not restrictive. It targets all characters. It doesn't matter if they're Avengers or shield agents or whatnot. So these are kind of my picks. If you're going to do Avengers Assemble, I would maybe put 1 in your deck or 2 at the very maximum. And then also understand that it's going to be hard to actually play that. The next card that I'm going to talk about is the Quinn Jet, and this is a card that you can use to bring out allies for free, but you have to build up time counters on the Quinn Jet that are equal to the resource cost of the character that you're trying to bring out. So as an example, we have Falcon on the table, which has a 4 resource cost. So once you place the Quinn Jet into play, each subsequent turn, you're going to place a time counter on the Quinn Jet itself. And then once you hit 4 counters, you can remove the Quinn Jet from play and all of the time counters to put Falcon into play. Now, this card is pretty easy to use. It's a little bit slow when you're trying to bring out allies, but if you have 3 of the Quinn Jets in your deck and you have them all out at the same time, note that all of the Quinn Jets are going to be constantly building counters on every turn. So when you think of it that way, you're basically getting a 3-cost ally out for free on 1 turn, if you want to think of it in terms of card economy, which is always a good way to think of these games. The other thing about this is that it's Avengers specific again. So if you have a deck with a mixture of shield agents and shield spies and Avengers, just note that this isn't going to work on the shield type characters. It's only going to work on the Avengers. If you want to really have a sort of a cheap way to bring out allies long term, this is a great option for you. The other thing about it is that once you put the Quinn Jet out, even if you don't have an ally in your hand, you can still be building those time counters up so that when you do draw an ally, you can then immediately put that ally into play on the next turn because you have so many time counters out. So this is kind of a more of a forward-thinking strategy for players that like a little bit longer-term style of gaming. You can build up these counters over time and then help yourself in the future. The next card I want to talk about is Hawkeye, and this card is fantastic, and I really enjoy playing Hawkeye in my deck. This is a great card that you put into play, and you put 4 tokens on the card when it comes out, and you can use Hawkeye to whittle down minions when they enter play by simply removing these arrow counters and then hitting them for 2 points of damage. So this is a great way to keep enemy minions in check when you're playing the game. Where this card really shines, I think, is the Ultron villain. Now, when you're playing Ultron, a bunch of the drone counters are going to be coming into play, and they can quickly overwhelm you. By using somebody like Hawkeye, you can really whittle down those tokens, which really keeps that scenario under control. Another place that this works really well is the second version of Green Goblin. You're constantly being mobbed by goblins. They keep coming out and ending up on you. And this is a great way to sort of whittle down those minions and weaken them before you can get completely overwhelmed by them. Now, something else I want to mention, and a lot of people may or may not know this, if you get the basic core set, you're going to get 1 copy of Hawkeye. Then if you purchase the Captain America expansion, you're going to get potentially a 2nd copy of Hawkeye. And if you look at the very bottom, one of them has the A symbol, one of them has the Captain America symbol. If you like playing this card, you can actually put 2 of these copies of the same card into your deck, but you would have to get the Captain America expansion and then use the one from the basic set as well. So that is an option if you really do enjoy playing Hawkeye, which I do. You can have then 2 copies of this in your deck and use this ability over and over again. In closing, I want to thank you for joining me today for this video. One of the things that really amazed me about the leadership aspect, I've been playing living card games from Fantasy Flight for a very long time, Lord of the Rings, Arkham Horror. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed the leadership aspect when they created it. So hopefully you're enjoying this game as much as I am, and you will also enjoy the leadership aspect. I want to thank you for spending some time with me today, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.